hello, hello. Hi, 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 hi. I'm sorry the story time is late. It was supposed to happen last Saturday, but it was not a good day. So, we're gonna read today, tonight. I have a couple stories picked up. Hopefully, they're spooky. If they're not, I want a refund. I am off to the side for some reason. There we go. Okay. Let me know if the audio is okay and the background music is a little loud. Okay. How's that? Is that too loud? Too quiet? Am I too quiet? Am I too loud? Myself? Oh god. Where am I on OBS? How's that? Is that better? I should have tested this beforehand, but I'm a bad streamer. Okay. Hold on, I have to get the name of it first. It's the Man in the Window is what we're gonna read first. Hold on. I have to change it from hee hee. Apologies. The Man in the Window. There. Okay. Should I wait for some people to get in before we start? How's everybody doing? Is everybody doing okay? I hope so. Hope everybody's having a good day. I also didn't prep my voice a whole lot, but, you know. Hi Luke! How you doing? I should have prepped my voice a little bit and gotten, like, maybe some tea or something, but, I didn't. I ran out of time before stream, and, you know, today's a little scuffed, but this coming Saturday is gonna be much better, I assume. There is a new redeem. Please don't, please don't redeem it. I'll cry. Please don't. You'll cry. You'll cry because you have to listen to it. I'll cry because it's gonna hurt me. But there's some things on my screen. There we go. Good to hear you're going. Good. I'm glad. So I'm doing good. I was a little stressed, a little bit before stream, just because I had some stuff to do that I thought I had done, and then, I didn't have it done, so I had to rush to get things out, and I'm not happy with how some things look, but we're working with it. Okay, let's see. It is 10:05, so I guess I should start reading. That's what you guys are here for, hopefully. Alrighty. The first story we have is called The Man in the Window. I probably should have prepped some more spooky music, but, you know, I'm going with what I have. Okay. My wife and I just checked into what's possibly the shittiest motel in the city. It was filthy and smelly and could probably collapse at any minute. Normally, we would try to find a nice hotel, but we were tired and it was the closest place to our apartment. We were awoken in the middle of the night by the police saying our building was being evacuated for our safety and for their investigation since a series of murders occurred there recently. We planned on leaving that place anyway, just not tonight. I guess it's good we're out of there now, away from that deranged killer, but all I can focus on is sleep. It's the middle of the night and I'm tired beyond belief. I am a worry wart, leave me alone. I get the key and drag myself and the bags behind me to the room, eyes half closed and half asleep. My lazy wife doesn't even have the courtesy to help me with any of these things. She just limps aimlessly behind me like a zombie. We eventually get to a door with peeling paint, scratch marks, and a metal 6 nailed to it. The hallway lights flicker while I fumble around with the key until the door creaks open. As I enter our temporary home, I don't even bother to turn on the lights, with both hands occupied by bags. Besides, I don't need to see how disgusting the room is. I don't want anything to discourage me from my precious sleep. I put the bags down, somewhere randomly, and feel around for the bed. I guess my wife has the same idea, as she just shuts the door behind her and flops onto the bed without flipping the switch. Without even time to think, my mind leaves my body as I'm engulfed by darkness and silence, and I quickly drift off to sleep. Suddenly, my eyes flash open as I'm shocked back into consciousness. I hear a noise. I didn't hear a noise or anything, but something must have woken me up. For some reason, I can feel this strange surge of energy, as if I hadn't been asleep at all. Normally, it takes me a few minutes until I can function at 100%, but not tonight. There's just something strange about tonight. I hop out of my bed and begin to walk towards the door to turn on the light. I just get to the foot of my bed when I notice a window on the wall. A window on the wall? Excuse me? I look outside and I notice something strange. It's just as dark out there as it is in here. Normally, a streetlight or the moon would illuminate some imagery out there, but it's just pitch black. Mesmerized, I stare blankly out the window, and the darkness begins to form shapes. Slowly, the body of a man forms. He's just standing out there, a few feet away from me. The energy I once had now turns into a blood-curdling fear. It's too dark to see his face, but I just know he's the killer. That twisted freak must have followed us here and waited for the right time to strike. I know he's going to mutilate me and my wife. I want to run away. I want to scream. But there's something about the way he's standing there, staring at me, that restricts my any action. He won't make a sound. He won't move a muscle. He just stands out there, staring blankly at me in the dark and silence. After a few minutes of just staring back at him, I notice something I'm surprised I didn't notice earlier. He's holding something. As I shift my focus from his face to his arm, I notice he's gripping somebody's arm. Just as I begin to look at it, he pulls a large, flailing shadow in view. A woman. I can see her, trying to force her arm out of his grip. No matter what this woman does, that lunatic won't for a second break his stare. He just continues to glare at me. I shift my focus from her body to her face as its face contorts, screaming and crying. That's when I begin to hear her. She screams for someone, anyone to help, but she won't even look in my direction. Through her shrieks coming from outside, the sound isn't all muffled by glass. Gradually, her cries for help and pleas for freedom become louder and louder until they just become an unintelligible shriek. It deafens me as it resonates with my brain and pounds through my ears. The noise alone is enough to drive a man insane. I want to clasp my hands against my ears and cry for that horrid noise to stop, anything to end it, but I remain paralyzed. The man just continues to stare. Abruptly, just as quickly as that shadow pulled her into view, he wraps his claws around her neck, and that deafening shriek finally ends. The pounding pain in my ears and head begin to ease as I breathe a sigh of relief. That's when I notice the horrible scene occurring before my eyes, with the killer's thumb tearing into the woman's throat. She grasps onto his wrist and tries to free herself, but he doesn't budge. She reaches out and starts to carve her nails into his arms, but he doesn't react. He remains motionless, his face fixed on me. Her resistance grows weaker and weaker until, eventually, her body hangs completely limp. As the woman's body falls to the floor, the man's arms fall to his side. It's my turn now. That demon must have something planned for me. Why would he paralyze me with his hellish stare, force me to watch him torture this woman, then just leave? But he doesn't move. I'm waiting for him to burst through the window, but he doesn't. He just stands there, motionless, staring at me, while I stand there motionless, staring back. After what feels like hours, I remain paralyzed. His stare has a grip on my mind, and I'm just as terrified as when I first saw him. Slowly, his shape becomes vague and darkness consumes my vision. This is it. This is how he is going to get me. I become increasingly blind until my eyes close and I feel my consciousness slip from my mind. That demon's waiting has finally paid off. I awake to find myself laying face down near the foot of the bed. It must be morning, but it's nearly as dark as it was last night, the only difference being a bright sliver of light from under the door. As traumatic memories from earlier begin to take form, I get up and rush toward the light switch. I flip the lights on and quickly turn around to inspect the room. What I see forces me to fall to my knees as tears stream across my face. In the middle of the room lies my beautiful wife, motionless on the ground. I crawl toward her lifeless body to see her neck heavily bruised. My eyes dart around the room in panic in hopes of finding any explanation. Slowly, I begin to realize something that causes my mind to stir, and my heart to shrivel up and shrink. There are no windows in this room. All that lies on the wall is a single mirror, hanging at the foot of the bed. Dun dun dun. Oh, that poor guy. He killed his wife. I wonder... So, I wonder if he's the killer that was in the first and he just didn't know it. Like, you know how some people have, like... I wouldn't say, like, split personalities, but they have, like... What's it called? Like, different personalities? Like, I don't know how to explain it, but, like, they can do something and then just forget they ever did it. Sort of thing. I wonder if that's what happened with him? I wonder. There's no bitches. No! That's so sad! That's so sad. Anyway. I'll probably read a couple more. That one was shorter than I thought it would be. Alright, this one. This one's called Hide and Seek. Yeah, dissociative identity. Yeah. Perfect. Oh, really? I thought it was gonna be like a cryptid situation, and like he was gonna be stalked by a cryptid. That would be so cool. I think I just have what is it? I think I just have a bias for cryptids. I like them. I love them. I should have made tea. I think that would have been better for my my throat than just drinking water. Well, that was really interesting. That one was one that my editor wanted me to read, which is triple question mark. He wanted me to read that one. Alright, okay. Next one is Hide and Seek, written by Haley Houston. You saw it coming? I had no idea. I thought it was just gonna be like some shadow demon. And I looked at these, like, prior to that, I guess I just didn't read, I didn't want to read ahead, so it caught me right off guard. Alright. Hide and Seek, written by Haley Houston. 58, 59, 60! Hide and go seek was the order of the evening. 2 days of rain with no signs of stopping meant mud, mud, and more mud. Jen already knew where the kids were. They were always hid together and in the same spot. Twins like to stay together, it seemed. Where could they be? She said convincingly as they giggled somewhere in the house. She tiptoed down the hall and peeked into their room. Goodness, I will never find them. Maybe... Here! She shouted as she dropped to the floor and pulled the covers back. I guess not, she murmured, searching the empty space under the bed. How about... Here! She shouted again, this time at an empty closet. They're really making me work for it this time, she thought. Nothing in the bath, no one in the laundry. She knew they were too scared to venture in the basement, but decided to check after she'd exhausted all of her other options. Jen noisily stamped down the stairs to announce her presence, hoping to elicit some giggles and shuffling. I'm gonna find you, she sang. She stopped, noting the uncanny silence. With a 5-year-old With a 5-year-old boy and a 5-year-old girl, the only silence she ever experienced happened while they were sleeping. And that was often interrupted by nightmares. Oh, I gotcha. Jordan! Casey, come on, kids. You win. I give up. She shouted merrily. Ollie Ollie Oxenfree! You win! She shouted with slightly more urgency. Mommy's not playing anymore. Come on now. It's time for dinner. Still nothing. Alright, how about this? If you come out now, we'll get a big, cheesy pizza, 2 buckets of whatever flavor ice cream you want, and we'll rent a movie. But you have to come out now. A minute passed, and the panic set in. Alright, kids, come out now. If you don't come out, you're going to be in trouble, okay? She shouted in her serious voice. Jordan, Oliver, Jones, you and your sister come out this instant. Jen suddenly heard movement above her and sprinted up the stairs. What on earth took you so long? She fussed as she reached the ground level. I was starting to get Jen froze. The front door was wide open. She knew she locked it. She was obsessive about locking the door and checked it at least twice a day. She ran out to the porch, dizzy and nearly hyperventilating. Jordan! Casey! She ran inside and called the police. Jen wasn't thinking clearly. Yes, I need help. My children are missing. Cherry Street, 43 Cherry Street. I was playing hide and go seek with them and I couldn't find them and I searched everywhere and then I found the door open. And they're not here, they're gone, she shrieked, the panic building. Is there anyone who might want to take them? Could they be with their father, a relative, or neighbors? Asked a calm voice on the other end of the phone. My family doesn't live near here and the neighbors are out and Jen's stomach knotted up. Oh god, their father. I have a restraining order against him. He's not supposed to be in town or anywhere near or... Ma'am, I want you to go inside and lock the doors just to be safe. Make sure all windows are latched as well. I'm sending a dispatch unit to patrol the area. Can you do that for me? The operator asked in a soothing voice. Yes, okay, I'm inside. Jen panted. Good. Thank you. Can you tell me about their father? The officer asked. Jen shuddered at the memories as the memories flooded back. He murdered his ex-wife in our home. It was all over the news. Jeremy Picking, Oh, yes, I remember, the officer interrupted. Shouldn't he be... Jen waited for her to finish and heard silence. Hello? Hello, are you there? Jen tried another number, but there was no dial tone. She jumped hard at the sound of a loud knock at the door. She saw what looked like an officer's uniform through the frosted glass and rushed to unlock it. Are you okay, Jen? It was Officer John Daly, an old peer of Jen's from high school and police officer in town for over a decade. Gosh, you got here fast. Jen sighed, relieved not to be alone anymore. The kids, John, they're gone. Don't worry, Jen. John interjected, holding her shoulders as she started to weep again. They're probably just running around the neighborhood, messing around. I've got 2 cars out there patrolling right now. Just stay inside and try to keep a cool head. We'll find him. Jen locked the door behind her again and paced the floor, wringing her hands, peering out the window and rechecking every potential hiding spot. As she crawled out from under the dining room table, she suddenly noticed motion on the second floor of the house next door. Her breathing stopped. They were supposed to be away for the weekend. A light in the attic flicked on, and the curtains swayed. Jen walked right up to her window, close enough for her nose to touch the glass. When the light suddenly flicked off again, Jen yanked the curtains closed, feeling exposed. She ran through the house, checking the locks again, roughly pulling all the curtains closed. She reached the glass door in the kitchen and came face to face with her neighbor Todd, screaming loudly enough to make him jump. Todd frowned, breathing heavily, and shook his head. Jesus, Jen, what is it? What happened? Jen cracked the door open, the chain lock still in place. Sorry, Todd, She suddenly remembered he was supposed to be out of town. Wait, why are you here? And why are you in town? Todd looked slightly offended. Well, Chrissy and I got into a big argument over how her dad always treats me, and while it was pretty rough, I am being spared a trip to see the in-laws. But, yeah, I got home like 10 minutes ago and saw Officer Daly leaving. So I figured I'd come check in on you and see if everything was okay. What a nice neighbor. Oh, yeah, it's just, well, the kids were playing hide and go seek, and I couldn't find them anywhere. Something shiny glinted by Todd's side caught her eye. He gripped a pair of shears in his left hand. Todd followed her eyes down to see what had stopped her so abruptly. What? Oh, sorry. Yeah, when I was crossing the backyard to get to yours, a lot of brush was getting in my way, so I thought I'd just get on it and, get it out of the way and, you don't have to talk to me through the door. Todd smiled, taking a step forward. Jen didn't flinch. Her mind was racing. The phone line was down. Todd had appeared out of nowhere. The shears, the phone, the kids, the shears. Jen slammed the door in Todd's face and locked the other 2 bolts. Hey! Todd shouted and banged on the door until with the fist holding the shears. I just want to talk, he shouted, still banging the door. Jen ran upstairs and tore through her father's old chest, desperately clawing around for the old 9mm. Why would Todd want her children? Why was he trying to get her alone? His wife was out of town, and he was always flirting just a bit too much. She found the gun just as she heard glass shattering downstairs. She silently loaded it and cocked it. As much as instinct told her to hide, she couldn't, not with Jordan and Casey's lives at stake. She crouched down, surveying the first floor from the top step. The kitchen door was completely obliterated, and Todd lay sprawled out on his chest. It had to be Jeremy. He took the kids, and now he was back to take her. This can't be happening, she repeated in her head over and over and over again. She cracked. She couldn't take the tension any longer. Hi, Nando. Welcome. He took the kids, and now he was back to take her. This can't be happening, she repeated in her head over and over and over again. She cracked. She couldn't take the tension any longer. What do you want from us? She screeched down the stairs. Jen? She heard John shout back. Oh God, she cried out and raced down the stairs. John stood in the living room facing the kitchen with his pistol drawn. She threw her arms around him, keeping the gun out of sight. She wasn't entirely sure if it was legal for her to have the weapon. Todd was here. He's not supposed to be, and he had these big shears, and I freaked out. She wailed into his shoulder. I think Jeremy was here. There's blood everywhere. Don't worry, I showed up just as Todd broke the glass to get in through your kitchen door. I shot him. It wasn't Jeremy, he said, stroking her hair. But I didn't hear any gunshots, Jen said, confused, thinking surely Todd had been stabbed. Silencer, said John. I didn't want to shake up the whole neighborhood if I didn't have to. Oh, right. Jen exhaled. Are my children at his house? Did you find them? Was Todd even involved in that, or does he just have amazing timing? Is he gonna be okay? Shh, John said, holding her tighter. You don't have to worry about John or Jeremy or any other man ever again. I'll make sure of it. Now, how about some dinner? Jen pulled away, frowning. John, I can't exactly eat right now. My children are missing. She began tearing up. John continued smiling. How about I go with you and we go look for them together? You know, help the other guys you said are looking. Jen offered. Let them go do their job, sweetie. They don't need any help. These are professional police officers. We're going to find little Jordan and Casey. Jen stopped moving, trying to remember when she'd told him the names of her children. They went to the same high school together, but that was all. He didn't know anything about her children. In fact, he hadn't even asked for the descriptions to tell the dispatchers who to look for. We'll get a big, cheesy pizza, he continued, 2 flavors of ice cream, and, hey, maybe we'll even rent a movie to get your mind off of things. Her heart dropped. Her stomach flew into her throat, and her breathing grew short and shallow. John, how did the dispatchers know who to look for? Jen asked slowly. I told them what they look like, Jenny. You really need to calm down, John said with a new note of seriousness to his voice. Thank you, dude. I should have gotten tea. John, how do you know what my children look like? Jen asked, gripping the gun still hidden behind her back. John's smile faded and he took a step closer, his fist clenched. That's really not important, Jenny. Don't you want your children to be found? Don't you want them safe? Don't you want your children back, Jenny? Why do you keep calling me Jenny? You ask a lot of questions, John shouted, making Jen jump. That is what you liked to be called in high school, wasn't it? When we still hung out? Before you met that freak Jeremy and cut me out of your life completely? John, where are my kids? Jen shouted back. Jeremy's children are none of your concern anymore, John roared. Jen pulled the gun from behind her back and pointed it at John, shaking, praying, and she loaded it correctly. Todd didn't break the glass door, did he? Jen asked softly. Did he? She shouted. He was just another man that wanted to get to you, John slurred lazily, unfazed by the gun as he plopped down on the couch. You know, if you shoot me, you'll never find them. Jen felt her will slipping as she sobbed. What do you want? She whimpered. Sit, John ordered, and give me the gun. Jen did as she was told and collapsed into the armchair. Did you even notice how much I cared about you in high school? I never stopped caring. I've been watching you and keeping you safe for years, Jen, John spat. John continued his diatribe, relaying stories from high school that Jen barely even remembered. As he ranted, she noticed a light out of the corner of her eye. It was Chrissy. She was home from her parents' place. Please come looking for Todd, Jen thought to herself. Please, please, please. Jen kept her eyes focused on Todd as she noticed Chrissy crossing her backyard in her peripheral. I can keep you safe. No one will ever touch you again. Think of Casey. Think of little Jordan. I'll keep them. John and Jen jumped as Chrissy's screams interrupted them. She'd found Todd. Ooh, goodness. Jen seized the moment to snatch back the gun. John lunged for it, setting it off. His face froze, his eyelids drooping. She'd taken a bullet straight to the gut. John staggered backward, crashing to the floor. Jen ran to Chrissy, who held Todd in her arms. He drifted in and out of consciousness. There's no time to explain, please. I need to use your phone. Jen begged. There's help. She helped Chrissy drag Todd to the front yard just as two officers screeched to a halt in their patrol cars. 4 officers with guns drawn rushed toward the house, yelling for Jen and Chrissy to lay down. Apparently, neighbors contacted the police at the sound of the gunshot. The officers didn't immediately comprehend why one of their own was lying on Jen's floor after his children went missing. However, after hearing knocking coming from John's patrol car, they found Jordan and Casey unarmed in the trunk. John survived but was fired and sent to a psychiatric ward for counseling. Oh my god. Christ. My editor got me tea. Thank you. Oh. Oh my god. That was intense. I didn't think that was gonna go in the way that I thought it was. I thought it was gonna be like a paranormal entity. I guess that's just me. When I want like spooky stories and stuff, I want like paranormal things happening. I want like I want ghosts, I want ghouls, I want goblins, you know. I don't know, I guess a part of how I grew up was I grew up with like horror movies and stuff. And like Dracula and, you know, Frankenstein and stuff like that. So it was like paranormal things. God, shut up! But, I don't know. I guess like, it just goes to show you that real monsters are kind of real. Like, human beings can be terrible. And it sounds like this guy was. Exactly. If you can send me the name of it, I can probably read it on stream. I think I chose a couple short ones, so I can add another one if I want. If you guys want. But yeah, I get that. Yeah, with like fantasy and stuff like that, you can kind of disassociate it from, you know, reality and stuff like that. But it's like, I would rather read about like, you know, Bigfoot eating somebody alive than, you know, an actual cannibal. Just because, I don't know. Like, I always hear horror stories on the news and stuff like that, so it's like, I guess it's like a kind of an escape from that? I don't know. It's one of those. Oh, there's honey in it. Good. I can go ahead and change. It's a bit into— oh no. I do need to. That's the other one I'm reading. Ah. Never use a voice. I can't spell. Order. While sleep. That works. A bit of a long title, but it works. Alright. Okay. I'm a chronic sleep talker. Always have been. Everyone who's ever slept in the same house as me will tell you that. My parents, siblings, friends, and especially my exes. They're the ones who got an earful. It was something we'd laugh about in the morning, because most of what I'd say would be incoherent or nonsensical. Some of my famous lines include, "There's too many helicopters in the pool," and "My balloon's on the wrong foot." It never bothered anyone around me. My friends and family pretty much just got a kick out of it. One day at work, the subject of sleeping came up. My coworkers threw stories back and forth about some of their weirdest dreams. I chimed in with my sleep-talking antics. Everyone laughed as I rattled off some of the crazier shit I've said while zonked. One of my coworkers, Bill, really busted a gut. After he finished hyperventilating, he told me that I should set up a voice recording while I was asleep, so I can play it back at work every morning. Honestly, I didn't think it was a bad idea. I feel like that's a bad idea. I just as a... If I were, like, this lady, and somebody was like, "Oh, you know, you should record yourself sleeping," that just seems a little weird to me. That's just me, though. That night, I downloaded a decent voice recording app on my phone and placed it on my nightstand before I went to bed. Being single and living alone, I had no way of knowing what I said in my sleep anymore, so I was looking forward to hearing what it would pick up. It would be a humorous way to start my otherwise dull mornings. For 2 months, I recorded a lot of great stuff. One night in particular, I kept screaming, almost as if I was running from something in my dream. But after a few minutes, I said, "Bad fridge." I couldn't stop laughing at that one. Neither could my coworkers when I showed them. Eventually, the app picked up something unsettling. Listening to the audio for any trace of funny banter I might add, I heard a loud bang. It sounded like a door being slammed shut with great force. Hearing that, my heart sank. I wondered if an intruder had made their way into my home. My house is a small cottage on the outskirts of town. I was able to get it at a great price due to its location and age. As such, some of its components are antiquated. I knew after hearing the recording that the only 2 doors sturdy enough to make that loud of a thud were that of the attic and the basement. Basements and attics have always freaked me out. Never liked to go near them as a kid, and I still don't as an adult. They kind of terrify me. The ones in my house even more so. Something about them being old made them all the more sinister. Despite my fear, I had to make sure no one was in the house. I got up out of bed and headed straight for the basement, as that was the door closest to my bedroom. I hesitantly opened the door and descended into my home's depths. I was nervous, but I was desperate for some peace of mind. The basement was empty. I quickly ran back up to the first floor and proceeded to journey upstairs. Once I reached the attic door, I froze. As much as basements make my skin crawl, I find attics to be far worse. Maybe it was because they were always a big unknown to me. I had only ever been in the attic once my whole life, and that was to help my dad unload some Christmas decorations. Even then, I was spooked. Because of my phobia, I installed a deadbolt on the door when I moved in. Oh my god. Hi, Meteor. Because of my phobia, I installed a deadbolt on the door when I moved in. It sounds foolish, but hey, it helps me sleep at night. Looking at the door, I noticed that the deadbolt was still locked. An intruder could have gone in and then relocked it on their way out, but at least I knew they weren't in there anymore. This was my excuse not to go inside. I went back downstairs and put the noise out of my mind. Forgetting all about the loud bang, I continued to record at night, in the hopes of catching more sleep talking. I did, but it wasn't of the hilarious, absurd variety. The night after I recorded the noise, the only thing I said the whole night was, "Where are you?" I didn't pay it any mind, as I've said similar things in my sleep before. It wasn't until I heard the following night's recording that I became alarmed. I said the same thing. "Where are you?" Only this time it was followed by a strange, static sound. This was odd, but I chalked it up to coincidence and a phone malfunction. I quickly discovered that neither of these things were to blame. Every night after, I got almost the same exact thing. I would ask, "Where are you?" and then I'd get some sort of static interference. I couldn't explain it, and it left me rather frazzled. I showed my coworkers, but they weren't able to offer me any insight. I thought about not recording anymore, but not knowing would make me more uneasy. I wanted to get to the bottom of what was going on. And then one night, I caught something different. Listening to the audio intently, I heard two things. I heard two distinct things. During a 2-minute stretch in the recording, there was footsteps in the background, almost as if somebody was pacing. It was very faint, but it was most certainly there. The only thing I heard was me asking the same question, "Where are you?" Only this time I received a response. It was a low whisper, but I couldn't make out what it said. I could only make out what it said. "I'm upstairs." Deeply unnerved by my findings, I set up the app again the next night. I also took the liberty of setting up 2 digital cameras, one in my room and one facing the attic door. After adjusting the light settings on each, I felt confident in my approach. I didn't have time to deal with this bullshit, so I just wanted nothing more than to get it sorted out somehow. Oh, am I reading too fast? Gotcha. Sorry, I'll slow down. Deeply unnerved by my findings, I set up the app again the next night. I also took the liberty of setting up 2 digital cameras, one in my room and one facing the attic door. After adjusting the light settings on each, I felt confident in my approach. I didn't have time to deal with this bullshit, so I wanted nothing more than to get it sorted out somehow. Unfortunately for me, it wasn't that simple. I slept through the night like normal, but I did have a weird dream. In my dream, I was at home. I was sitting on my couch watching TV when I heard a scratching sound coming from upstairs. Naturally, I assumed it was mice, but as I sat there, the noise grew louder and louder. It eventually morphed into a horrendous knocking sound. That's when I got up to investigate. I made my way up to the attic door, and the noises ceased. I stood there for a moment, expecting it to start up again, but it didn't. Complete silence for what felt like a few minutes. Then, without warning, a loud clicking sound broke the tension. The deadbolt had unlocked itself, and that's when I woke up to the sound of my alarm going off. I immediately got up and gathered the cameras, as well as my phone. I was eager to see if they'd captured anything. They did, but it only left me with more questions. Halfway through the audio on both my phone and the camera in my room, I heard once again, "Where are you?" There was no response and no static, but there was a loud bang, and just like the one I'd caught before, only more distinct, it was more certainly a door being slammed shut. I quickly grabbed the second camera and began looking through the footage. The attic door never opened. Instead, I heard the banging in the background, ever so faintly. Given the volume in each of the clips, it seemed as though it might have been the basement door. After skimming through the rest of the footage and finding nothing else out of the ordinary, I decided to check the basement again. With a mixture of nerves and adrenaline, I ran over to the basement door and swung it open. I hurried downstairs and turned the light on. I was fed up and a little annoyed, thinking someone was somehow having a laugh at my expense. However, when the room lit up, I was greeted with the familiar sight of an unfurnished basement. It was completely empty, no intruder, and no answers. Frustrated, I went off to work and tried to keep my mind off the odd dilemma. That proved to be a difficult task. I kept playing out different scenarios in my head. Yeah. Hold on, I'll be right back. The name of the story? It is Never Use a Voice Recorder While You Sleep. Give me 2 seconds. I'm gonna let my dog out. I'll be right back. I'm sorry, are you trying to incite a takeover of my own channel, Meteor? Absolutely not. Do not spam in my chat! I will fight you in New York parking lot. I'm sure you were. Having a little break? Oh, tea. Alright. Just waiting for me. Sure. Silently waiting. Alright. Enjoying your time. Oh, okay. Frustrated, I went off to work and tried to keep my mind off my odd dilemma. Waiting for the right moment. Shut up. That proved to be a difficult task. I kept playing out different scenarios in my head during the workday, but nothing made sense. The only logical thought, though somewhat illogical explanation that I could come up with, was that I was being harassed by a spirit. I didn't want to give in to that notion, but I was running out of ideas. I tried to talk with my coworkers again, in the hopes that they would tell me it was nothing to worry about. Thank you, Nando. I tried to talk with my coworkers again, in the hopes that they would tell me it was nothing to worry about. Instead, I received the opposite. One of my coworkers told me to call the cops and have them look through the house for signs of break-in. Another told me I should stay at a friend's house. Bill told me to abandon the house and run for the hills. He was only joking, but it didn't make me feel any better about the matter. Things took a turn for the bizarre when I arrived home that day. Opening the front door to the cottage, I stepped inside and set my jacket down on the couch. I then plopped down in an attempt to unwind. Immediately after sitting, I heard the bang again. It was clear as day. It was the same sound from the audio and footage, but this time I was hearing it in person. Oh? I'll save that question for in a second. Opening the front door to the cottage, I stepped in. Oh, I read that. Blah, blah, blah. I jumped up and looked straight ahead at the basement door. You could see it from the couch. It had been in my line of sight the entire time. Though I hadn't been looking directly at it, I was fairly certain it hadn't moved. Still, the bang definitely came from that direction. Spooked but curious, I decided to check it out. I walked over cautiously and examined the door. There was no indication that it had been slammed shut. The wood around the door was pristine, and the floor below had not been scraped. I opened it and trotted down the old creaky stairs to investigate the basement for the third time. After reaching the bottom, I turned the light on. I expected to see nothing, just as I had before. While scanning the room left to right, nothing is mostly what I saw. After doing a double take, however, I realized something was amiss. Off in the center of the far wall was a door. This sent a chill up my spine. My basement had no doors. That I was sure of. I knew this before I knew this before purchasing the place almost a year ago, when I first took the grand tour. I also didn't see the door when I went down there that morning or the other day. It didn't make a lick of sense. I walked towards it, bewildered. I wasn't sure of the door's origins, but I knew it had to be the cause of the sound I had been hearing. There was no explanation. As I approached the impossibility before me, I realized something that had made my skin crawl. I recognized the wood, the design, and the deadbolt. It was the attic door. I didn't want to open it, for fear of what might be lurking behind. Instead, I ran upstairs and checked to see if the attic door was still there. The actual one. It was indeed. I then ran back downstairs into the basement, only to find that the door down there had vanished. Had I merely imagined its presence? Thinking I had gone completely mad, I went back upstairs and sat down on the couch. Excuse me. My mind was running haywire, trying to comprehend things, but it eventually gave in to its own weariness. I ended up taking a short nap, and that's when I had another weird dream. The dream was similar to the one I had before. I was sitting on the couch watching TV when I heard a scratching noise. The only difference was, it was coming from the basement rather than the attic. It too progressed and turned into a vicious knocking that I couldn't ignore. As such, I got up from the couch and went downstairs to put a stop to it. In my dream, the basement was empty, no mysterious door in sight. That and the knocking and scratching ceased upon my entrance. At my wit's end, I went back upstairs. The sound returned with a vengeance. Only this time, it was coming from the attic again. I ran up there as fast as I could, but the noise stopped. I waited. Following the narrative from my previous dream, the deadbolt clicked, signaling that the door had unlocked itself. Unlike my previous dream, however, the door opened up a bit and a hand reached out from within. That's when I woke up. Excuse me, 1 second. I wrote the first dream off as a byproduct of an overstressed mind, but to have it reoccur? That wasn't ordinary, at least not for me. Between the door in my basement and my strange nightmares, I was a mess. Both perplexed and frightened, I called my friend John. Why is it always John's in these stories? John is an eccentric fellow. He's the kind of guy who believes in UFOs, ghosts, conspiracy theories, the occult, and other things of that nature. Not only does he believe in them, but he studies them. He knows more about Roswell than I do about myself. Being a skeptic, I always thought the massive amount of information he retained was borderline useless. I changed my mind about that after seeing my attic door pop up in my basement. I don't know. I guess it depends on what you feel. I should save questions for after I read. Apologies. If anyone could help or at least steer me in the right direction, it was him. I spoke with John for a couple of hours. He was ecstatic after hearing about my experience. He began rattling off all the different things he thought it might indicate. Some of these theories included a wormhole, a gateway to the other side, and even a glitch. One of the many theories that he subscribes to is that the world we live in is a simulation. He told me that he couldn't be completely certain about what it was without seeing it for himself. Unfortunately, he lives too far away just to stop by and visit. Oh, thank you, Amanda. Oh. Instead of leaving me empty-handed, John gave me some advice on what to do next. After telling him about the voice I captured in the dreams I'd been having, he started leaning towards the ghost idea. He thought it might be trying to communicate with me. Because of this, he told me I should set up the voice recorder in the basement and ask the spirit some questions. I could play back the recording after and listen for the voice. John said that I should do it in the attic as well. Though weary of his methods, I told him I'd try it out. After all, I couldn't just sit around and expect the situation to resolve itself. I didn't like the idea of going up into the attic myself, but I needed to do something. After getting off the phone, I immediately put his plan into action. The basement would have to be first, as I was still apprehensive about going upstairs. I set up the app and put my phone on the basement floor. I proceeded to ask questions, leaving enough space in between for someone or something to answer. I asked for normal things like its name, its age, and what it wanted. After roughly 5 minutes of interrogation, I stopped the recording and played it back. I must have listened to my own voice a million times, hoping for anything audible to present itself. To my dismay, I caught nothing of the sort. It seemed as though the attic would indeed have to be my next venture. I reluctantly climbed up the stairs to the attic door. I looked at it for a few moments, took a deep breath, and unlocked the deadbolt. I opened the door and I braced myself. There was nothing there, save for the previous owner's belongings. When I first purchased the house, I had to do a little bit of renovating, so to speak. The owner before me had no cable, electricity, or proper plumbing. On top of that, they left all of their stuff behind. I had most of it removed, but left everything that was in the attic. I had no need for the space, but I didn't want to put any more money into emptying the house than I had to. I persuaded through the attic's wares for a bit, curious as to what it was that I technically owned. Some of the interesting items that stood out to me were an old postcard from Paris, a strange-looking dog collar, and a book on witchcraft. The fear set in while going through the contents of my new collection. The angled ceiling, antiques, and large window overlooking my yard did give the Cooper. A large window overlooking my yard did give the place a take a break 1 second. 1 second. Sorry about that. I'm just gonna leave my door open. Okay. I cleared my throat and asked, "Where are you?" After asking the final question, I stopped the recording and played it back. It sounded almost identical to the ones I had recorded in the basement, complete with lack of answers. That is, until the very end. After I asked the last question, I heard a familiar, low whisper. "Behind you." After hearing this reply, I immediately turned around. There was nothing there. Despite this, I hightailed it downstairs. That eerie voice reinforced my phobia of attics and instilled in me an indescribable dread. I could no longer bear to be in that house by myself. I called John again and begged him to help me out. I told him I'd give him the gas money for the 8-hour round trip. He was reluctant at first, knowing that he'd have to spend the night and call out from work the next morning. Curiosity got the best of him in the end. After much deliberation, he agreed to come over. I waited for John in my car. While sitting there, I couldn't help but examine my house. I began asking myself questions like, is it really haunted? Do ghosts really exist? And my favorite, is this what my life has come to? Though the questions were speculative and rhetorical, I pretty much knew the answers. As I gazed toward the house in disappointment, I noticed something out of the corner of my eye. It was a silhouette, standing in the attic shadow, in the attic window. Holy shit, what the fuck? What do I do? Those were the only retorts that crossed my mind after seeing the shadowy figure. After a few moments of staring, the figure stepped back from the window, completely out of sight. I sat and pondered about it for a few minutes after its departure. In a moment of bravery, I chose to go back in the house and up to the attic. Crazy, I know, but it's my house, and I needed to show this thing that I wasn't interested in playing its games. Even after I was scared shitless. Besides, John would have my head if I don't follow the damn thing. Feeling confident but still shaky, I ventured up into the attic. I swung the door open without hesitation and waltzed in like I owned the place. After all, I did. The attic was void of any ghostly figures, but it did harbor the faint scent of candle wax. Unsure of how to proceed, I started talking in a loud and firm tone. This isn't your house. I'm tired of your bullshit game, Spirit. I demand that you leave at once. I knew this wasn't gonna work, but it was almost cathartic. I felt a hell of a lot better fighting back. I walked around the attic, satisfied with my rant, thinking that I'd actually conquered my fear. My smug demeanor wouldn't last more than a few moments. Soon after I spoke, a gust of wind blew through the attic and hit me like a bus, nearly knocking me over. I knew it was the ghost doing. I tried to stand my ground, but I was pretty damn frightened. I watched as everything around me flew about, creating a tornado of mementos and keepsakes. I was about to retreat when I noticed something that hadn't budged an inch. It was the book on witchcraft that I had seen before. Upon noticing it, the wind inexplicably stopped, and everything fell to the floor. I walked over to the book, curious as to why it remained stationary. As I did, it opened up on its own. It was startling, but I somehow sensed no malice. I was coming around to the fact that the ghost might really be trying to communicate with me. The page the book landed on was a spell. The whole thing was in Latin, but from what I could make out, it had something to do with growing plants. Confused, I reached out to the ghost for help. What do you want me to do? After asking the question, the attic door slammed shut. I thought for a moment and gathered that it wanted me to recite the spell in the attic. I was still confused, but somehow calm. It felt as though I was helping the spirit in some way. Before I could read from the book, my phone went off. It was a text from John. So sorry, I can't make it out there. My boss won't give me the day off tomorrow, and I'm not sure my car will make it there and back. It desperately needs new tires, and I won't be able to buy those until Friday. Please give me a call back then, and I'll see what I can do. Good luck. Fuck. Even though I wasn't freaking out anymore, it was nice knowing that somebody was on their way to my house, just in case things went sour. I didn't like it, but I was on my own. I accepted this and turned my attention back to the book. It was time to deliver the spell. I cleared my throat and began reciting the text in the book. I took Latin in college, and although I didn't retain all the information, I knew enough to make the proper pronunciations. Even still, I stumbled over my words during certain parts. Because of this, I had to restart a couple times. I wanted to get it right, especially if it was truly what the ghost wanted. After finishing the spell flawlessly, for the most part, the attic door opened. I walked out with the book in hand, wondering if everything was over. When I reached the bottom step and turned around the corner, it became quickly apparent that it wasn't. The basement door was wide open. I was in uncharted territory, taking orders from a ghost, but I hoped I was following along all right. Seeing the basement door ajar convinced me that I probably needed to recite the spell down there as well. I still wasn't sure why, but it felt like this was the spirit's will. As much, I obliged. I walked down into the basement with the book and turned the light on. A quick glance around revealed that I was alone and that there was no door. I cleared my throat once again and began reciting the spell, word for word. Honestly, I was a little excited. It felt like I was doing something productive about my ghost problem, and that I might actually help put it to rest. This time, I got it right on the first try. Upon finishing the spell in the basement, my house began shaking. When I say the house, I mean the whole house, basement and all. I never experienced an earthquake before, but it seemed like the only logical explanation for what was happening. It wasn't until I looked around the room during the madness that I realized it was the spell's doing. There, on the far wall, shaking with the rest of the house, was the attic door. I wondered if the spell had somehow summoned it, simultaneously causing the house to wobble. The tremor eventually stopped, and I was left with the door, lending credence to my theory. I waited for a few minutes, thinking the door would open, but it did not. It seemed that I would have to do that myself. I wasn't too happy about it, but I'd come too far to back out now. I gathered my wits and walked over to the door. I proceeded to swing it open without fear, just as I had upstairs. Behind the door was a surprise. It was the attic. The attic upstairs. Everything was the same. Only there was a man standing at the window. Hearing me open the door, he turned around. His eyes widened when he saw me. He ran so fast in my direction that I didn't even have enough time to take more than a single step back. He rushed through the doorway and into the basement. He turned back around and slammed the attic door shut, making sure to lock the deadbolt. He turned to me, grabbed my shoulders, and looked me dead in the eye. I was baffled and scared for my life. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much. After expressing his thanks, the man let go of me and ran upstairs. But not before turning around and offering me some advice. Whatever you do, don't go in there. He gestured toward the attic door before bolting upstairs. I ran after him, wanting to ask some questions, but when I got upstairs, it was already too late. My front door was wide open, and I could see him running down the dirt road towards town. And that was that. I've slept every night since then with no noises or paranormal issues whatsoever. I even set up the cameras and voice recorder a few times to make sure they didn't catch a damned thing. I don't know what the hell happened, but I am sure of one thing. The man that came out from behind the attic door was no ghost. He was a living, breathing person. That's the end of that one. That was longer than I thought it was. I really should have prepped my voice for this. I didn't think it would be that long, but that was interesting. I guess the guy did like some witchcraft voodoo and got himself locked in a spatial zone. Like in this, like the backroom situation. That was spooky. It was very spooky though. Do you imagine? I should. While I'm resting, do you guys have any stories that you would like me to read? Or, it doesn't have to be like, creepypastas. It can be like just short stories that you would like. You recorded yourself while you were sleeping, Meteor? What? Ooh. I think... Ooh. What are you oohing at, Meteor? Also, I don't know if I should show you guys this website, but this website is one of the worst things I've ever come across. It's like creepypasta.com. It is the worst lucky website I've ever seen. What do you mean we don't talk about it? I'm curious now. What do you mean? I don't know how many stories I should read. Because I can find a lot of, Crawling Chaos? Can I find that online, maybe? Nyaratoka? Worrying about it, Meteor. I hope you know I'm gonna ask you about it later. Nope, that's not Discord. Mark, can you send that to me, please? Because I don't see it on Discord. I could just look it up though. Can I find it online? Wait, I think I found it. Oh, the King in Yellow? I did wanna... I actually, I downloaded the game for that, the Baby in Yellow. We could play King in Yellow too. Oop. Okay, so it was the right one. Okay. Now, I'm gonna apologize. I don't think I'm gonna be able to pronounce this right, but I will try my best. Also, this print is so tiny. There we go. Print on this website is so tiny. Okay. Nyarlathotep. Oh, wait, I need to change the thing. Hold on. 2 seconds. I don't know how to spell it. I might just have to copy and paste it. Because I don't think OBS has, you know, spelling checks. There. Nyara Thotep. Also, Nando, I did see your message. Wait, I can read that after this one. I'm sorry, I just checked Discord. Nyara Thotep, the crawling chaos. I am the last. I will tell the audience void. Yeah. That's okay. Listen, it's because of the game, that one Cthulhu dating game that has it as Thotep. Oh, it's okay, Nando. Don't worry. I'm gonna read it, whether you like it or not. Ah. How did you know I was leaning too far forward, Meteor? Shut up. Thotep, the crawling chaos. I am the last. I will tell the audience void. I do not recall it distinctly when it began, but it was months ago. The general intention was horrible. I'm not doing the uwu voice for- you're gonna ruin Mark's story! Alright. To a season of political and social upheaval was added a strange and brooding apprehension of hideous physical danger. A danger widespread and all-embracing, such as danger as may be. I can't do this. I can't do this. Oh my god. Such a danger as may be imagined only in the most terrible phantasms of the night. I recall that oh god, kill me now. I recall that the people went about with pale and worried faces and whispered warnings and prophecies which no one dared consciously repeat or acknowledge to himself that he had heard. I can't do that. Oh, wait, hold on. Shut up! Wait, hold on. Isn't there an generator? Ooh. Generator. Okay. I'm just... Meteor did this. Just letting everybody know. This should be a minute. I won't do the whole thing. I recall that the people went about with pale and worried faces and whispered warnings and prophecies which no one dared consciously repeat or acknowledge to himself that he I can't do this. They did. I hate everything. A sense of monstrous grit was upon the wand, and out of the abysses between the straws swept chill currents that made men shiver in dark and lonely places. There was a demonic alteration in the sequences of the seasons. The autumn heat winged fearsomely. And everyone thought that the world and perhaps the universe had passed from I can't do this, man. I hate. Everyone thought that the I read that already. The universe had passed from the controller of known gods our forces to that gods our forces which were unknown. Oh my god. Hold on. I need you guys to see this in chat because it's... I'm gonna post it in chat. It's so bad. It's so bad. Look at it. It's so bad. It's so bad. Oh, I'm getting rid of that rename so fast. Okay. I think that was a minute of pain and suffering. And it was then that I can't even say it right now. Nyarlathotep came out of Egypt. Who he was, no one could tell, but he was of the old native blood and looked like a pharaoh. The Fellahin knelt when they saw him, yet could not say why. He said he had risen up out of the blackness of 27 centuries, and that he had heard messages from places not on this planet. Into the lands of civilization came Nyarlathotep, swarthy, slender, and sinister, always buying strange instruments of glass and metal and combining them into instruments yet stranger. He spoke much of the sciences with electricity and psychology, and gave exhibitions of power which sent his spectators away speechless, yet which swelled his fame to exceeding magnitude. Men advised one another to see Nyarlathotep and shuddered. And where Nyarlathotep went, rest vanished. For the small hours were rent with screams of nightmare. Never before had the screams of nightmare been such a public problem. Now the wise men almost wished they could forbid sleep in the small hours, that the shrieks of cities might less horribly disturb the pale, pitying moon as it glimmered on green waters gliding under bridges, and old steeples crumbling against a sickly sky. I can probably read this drunk better than I can read it right now. I don't think I have alcohol on hand, though, unfortunately. I remember when Nyarlathotep came to my city, the great, the old, the terrible city of unnumbered crimes. My friend had told me of him, and that the impelling fascination and allurement of his revelations, and I burned with eagerness to explore his utmost mysteries. My friend said they were horrible and impressive beyond my most fevered imaginings. What was thrown on a screen in the darkened room prophesied things none but Nyarlathotep dared prophesy. And at that, in the sputter of his sparks, there was taken from men that which had never been taken before, yet which sued only in his eyes. And I heard it hinted abroad that those who knew Nyarlathotep looked on sights which others saw not. It was in the hot autumn that I went through the night with the restless crowds to see Nyarlathotep. Why do they say his name so many times? Through the stifling night and up the endless stairs into the choking room. And shadowed on a screen, I saw hooded forms amidst ruins, and yellow, evil faces peering from behind fallen monuments, and I see the world battling against blackness. Against the waves of destruction, from the ultimate space, whirring, churning, struggling around the dimming, cooling sun. Then the sparks played amazingly around the heads of the spectators, and hair stood up on end while shadows were more grotesque than I can tell came out of squatted on the heads. And then I, who was colder and more scientific than the rest, mumbled a terrible protest about imposture and static electricity. Nyarlathotep drave us all out down the dizzy stairs into the damp, hot, desert midnight streets. I forgot you also asked another question. After this paragraph I'll read. Screamed aloud that I was not afraid, that I never could be afraid, and others screamed with me for solace. We swear to one another that the city was exactly the same, and still alive. And when the electric lights began to fade, we cursed the company over and over again, and laughed at the queer faces we'd made. A favorite story? I really like the old creepypastas, like before people kind of turned them into, what was it, like, I don't want to say cringy, but, like, I was in that era. I know how bad it got with, like, Slenderman and stuff like that, but, like, like the OG original Slenderman story, I think is one of my favorites. And did you know that Slenderman actually started out just as a photo, like online for like a photo contest? I don't know, it's crazy that people can take a photo and make something so famous. I don't know. It's really cool though. And then you said something about hold on, let me go back. Because you asked another question and I wasn't able to. What story scared me the most? I can't remember the name of it. But when I was younger, I used to like go to sleep listening to creepypasta and scary stories, like chilling tales to tell in the dark. Was a horror radio that I used to read, just to fall asleep to. And there was one, and I can't remember the name of it, but it made it to where I couldn't sleep. And really the only part of it is just like, it was like in Italy or something, and this person was in a hotel. It was very cool. But it terrified me, and to this day, I still can't find it. Like, I've tried to look for it to see if it would still scare me. But I really can't remember the name of it, and it's upsetting to me that I can't remember it, because I would love to read it on stream just to see if it would scare me again. You're so shook. Oh my goodness. I don't remember the very first creepypasta I read. It was either... I think it was Jeff the Killer, to be honest. That was a, that was a time in my life. I'm also kind of making my voice a little... Ooh. I'm taking notes for next stream. I'll have a better... I'll try to have a better reading voice next stream, I promise. It's just this one. This one's a little scuffed. I apologize. I'm also taking out like a 5 for my poor voice. I have to play video games tomorrow. You don't remember Jeff the Killer? Oh no! I've never played the original Slender Man. Like, I played like Slender the 8 Pages. That was one of the very first horror games I played when I got a console. It was on the I think the PS3, PS4. Oh, Cold Air? I haven't read that one. I'm gonna make notes after stream to make sure that I can get all these. Jeff the Killer's fun though. I don't know, it's weird to see how like these horror stories and stuff like that came about from like just people's minds, and then other people were like, hey, we're gonna make a whole, you know, multiverse of Slenderman, because that's just how the internet was back then. Or I guess it is kind of how that is now. Thank you for coming and staying with me. It was very nice to see a new chatter come in. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Have a good night. Have a good night. True. I like love. Oh my goodness. Thank you for following. I hope to see you next time too. We're gonna be reading again Saturday. Lovecraftian horror is really cool though. I like the cosmic horror aspect of Lovecraft. Oh yeah. The found footage. The found footage ones. I want to do those so bad. I would love to do a found footage thing. That was so cool. I'm a horror junkie, and one of the recent things that I've gotten into is like, what's it called? I can't remember it. Oh no. Come on now. It's not it's not that hard. It's the VHS horror. What is it called? I think I've heard of it. I haven't played it yet. I'd love to play it though. Maybe I can get a group together and we could play. But what is it called? The Ring? No. It's the ones that you see them all over YouTube now. And there's like it's the Mandela catalog, those types of things. Gosh, I don't remember what they're called though. Retro horror? No. What is it called? I'm derping so bad. Mandela. I forgot what it was called. Oh, is it? I'll have to check it out then. Oh, that's gonna bug me. That I can't remember what kind of horror that is. I'll finish the story and then I'll look it up. Oh, it's gonna bug me to death. Okay. I believe we felt something coming down from the greenish moon, for when we began to depend on its light, we drifted into curious involuntary formations and seemed to know our destinations, though we dared not think of them. Once we lifted the pavement and found the blocks loose and displaced by grass, with scarce a line of rusted metal to shew where the tramways had run. And again we saw a tramcar, lone, windowless, dilapidated, and almost on its side. When we gazed around the horizon, we could not find the third tower by the river, and noticed that the silhouette of the second tower was ragged at the top. Then we split up into narrow columns, each of which echo seemed to draw in a different direction. One disappeared in a narrow alley to the left, leaving only the echo of a shocking moan. Another filed down a weed-choked subway entrance, howling with a laughter that was mad. My own column was sucked toward the open country, and presently felt a chill that was not of the hot autumn, for as we stalked out on the dark moor, we beheld around us the hellish moon glitter of evil snows. Trackless, inexplicable snows swept asunder in one direction only. Where it lay a gulf of all the blacker for its glittering walls, the column seemed very thin indeed. As it plodded dreamily into the gulf, I lingered behind, for the black rift in the green-litten snow was frightful, and I thought I had heard the reverberations of a disquieted wail as my companions vanished. But my power to linger was slight. As it beckoned by those who had gone before, I half floated between the titanic snowdrifts, quivering and afraid, into the sightless vortex of the unimaginable. Screamingly sentient, dumbly delirious, and only the gods that were can tell. A sick and sensitive shadow, writhing in hands that are not hands, and whirled blindly past ghastly midnights of rotting creation, corpses of dead worlds with sores that were cities, eternal winds that brush the pallid stars and make them flicker low. Beyond the worlds, vaguely ghosts of monstrous things, half-seen columns of unsanctified temples that rest on nameless rocks beneath space and reach up to dizzy vacua above the spheres of light and darkness. And through this revolting graveyard— oh, I bonked the mic, I apologize. And through this revolting graveyard of the universe, the muffled, maddening beating of drums, and thin, monotonous whine of blasphemous flutes from inconceivable, enlightened chambers beyond time. The detestable pounding and piping whereunto dance slowly, awkwardly, and absurdly the gigantic, tenebrous, ultimate gods, the blind, voiceless, mindless gargoyles, whose soul is Nyarlathotep. That one's good. I hope that wasn't so bad with the Uwu redeem. Oh, I have to close this. Go away. I could probably read a couple more. A couple short ones. Oh, where is Nando's? Dun, 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 dun. Alright. Oh, is this by Yaya Rona? Oh, you're gonna hear my terrible Spanish. Okay. Wait, actually, I think I can probably find this one. Hold on. So I don't have to have Discord open. Let me see. Is it really not anywhere online that I can just look it up? I guess I can just have Discord open. Okay. It is. You guys are just gonna hear me be not be able to pronounce Spanish words because I'm a terrible Hispanic. It felt like icicles were cutting into his skin. Just then, when La Llorona was about to pick him up and carry him away back in town, the church bell started ringing, calling the people for mass. And when the church bell rang, a prayer went through the boy's mind. And then when that happened, La Llorona dropped him and she disappeared through the trees. He stayed there for a long time before he had his strength back. Finally, he was able to run home. When he got home, his mother was angry. She said, "Where have you been? You should have been home hours ago." He stuttered and stammered, Mama, La Llorona." She said, "What? Don't go making up stories about La Llorona." You should have been home a long time ago." And she reached out like she was going to give him a good shaking. Oh. But then she reached out to take hold of his shoulders, and then she saw on each shoulder there were 5 round red marks, 5 bloodstains. They had been left by La Llorona's fingers. Then she believed him. She took that shirt and washed it over and over, but she could never get the stains out. And then the man who told me about that said when he was a boy, she would come around the neighborhood and show them the shirt. She would say, "Look here, you can just count these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those red marks were left by La Llorona's fingers. When it gets dark, get home because La Llorona can carry children away. And you can bet the kids in that neighborhood got home when it got dark. But I've never seen that shirt, so I'm going to swear the story's true." Oh, sure. That was fun, Nando. Oh, thank you for coming out, Luke. Get some good rest. Good night. Oh, hi, Lucian. Hello, my good boy. Oh yeah, I still gotta show you guys pictures in the Discord of him. Well done, Louie. Alright, I could probably do one more, and then I think I think that'll be it for the stream. But let's see. Here's a short one. Okay. We'll change it here. We should have a Discord movie night where we just watch that I think that'd be a fun time. The Doll. I don't remember that movie being scary, but I haven't found a movie that actually scares me. That could be like a challenge, finding a movie that can actually scare me. Nothing spooks me. I'm unspookable. Unless it's a video game. Those don't count though. Movies are not scary. And it's like, I don't want to be mean to people who get scared at movies, but like, come on now. Oh my god, playing Phasmophobia. Oh no. Listen, Phasmophobia doesn't frighten me sometimes, but you know. Okay. The next. Yeah, nothing scares me, Meteor. I don't like the tone you have in that angry face. There is only one thing that spooks me, and those are clowns. And you know what? You know what? If you loved me, you wouldn't put them anywhere near me. Okay, listen. You must be terrifying then. Okay, listen. My roar scares everybody, not just me. You can't use that. You can't use that against me. But, I was saying something. Oh, I remember what I was talking about earlier. Analog horror. Analog horror has been something that I've been getting into recently. Like the Mandela Catalog and Local 58. I encourage everybody to go and look those up because those are so cool. I love analog horror. I think it's one of the more creative horrors I think I've seen. Don't LOL me. You're not even watching me. You're just listening. Okay. Our next story. I'm gonna take a sip of water this time. Is The Tall Man of Briarbell, Missouri. Written by C.K. Walker. We had all liked Mr. Winscott. He didn't mind when we used to use the sledding hill on his property and always gave out the best Halloween candy in the neighborhood. So when we heard he'd been taken by the Tall Man, everyone was really bummed out. Oh. Really bummed out that he got taken away by this entity. You wouldn't have heard of the Tall Man. You wouldn't have heard of Tall Man. So let me explain. What? Tall Man has been a legend in my town for decades. Those who claim to have seen him say that he is over 9 feet tall, slight, and pale, with an exceedingly polite smile. My dad told me that the Tall Man is a collector. He likes things. Dad says his favorite things to take are sad people, empty buildings, and dreams. I have to admit, he's stolen away my dreams more than a few times. When Mr. Winscott didn't show up for church on Sunday, nobody thought it was weird. When Monday rolled around and he wasn't at work with my dad, people started to whisper. Me. Don't say you're the Tall Man. You're not pale. My parents thought it was odd, but not particularly concerning. But then the rumor started that Tall Man had gotten him. A kid in my class even said that he had seen Tall Man in Mr. Winscott's house through a window. I told my parents what Jake had seen, but they only laughed. Tyler and I biked by Mr. Winscott's place every day after school to get it to our friend Rory's house. We never stopped in front of Mr. Winscott's to try and see Tall Man through the windows like Jake had. We never even slowed down. But one day, we played too late at Rory's. Since we didn't want to bike home in the dark, we called our parents and asked to sleep over. Tyler was allowed. I wasn't. I tried really hard not to look at as I biked by Mr. Winscott's cul-de-sac. I almost made it, but my curiosity forced a backwards glance at the house. The lights were all on, and my eyes were drawn to the face in the window immediately. I saw a tall man looking back at me. I choked in a panicked breath, and my foot missed the pedal as I tried to speed away on my bike. I stumbled for only a second, my eyes never leaving the face in the window, before pedaling home as fast as I could. The next morning at school, I told Rory and Tyler about Tallman. They didn't believe me, of course. They hadn't believed Jake either. I knew I had to show them, otherwise they would think I was a liar. We waited until dark and then biked to Mr. Winscott's cul-de-sac. Tallman was there, as I told him he'd be, watching us from the window above the front door. It was such a tall front door that I thought Tallman must have been 10 feet high to see out the window above it. He was almost smiling, but his expression betrayed a certain displeasure. Tyler fell off his bike. Holy shit! Run! We did. As soon as we cleared the cul-de-sac, we all began talking over each other in a flustered panic. I can't believe it's all Tallman. Did you see the look on his face? We had to tell the cops. We went back the next morning with more friends, but Tallman was gone. We went back the next day again, but again could see no one behind the window. We began to wonder if Tallman only came out at night. A few nights later, as we sat in Rory's basement waiting for a pizza to arrive, we decided to sneak out and see if our theory was true. We quietly rolled our bikes down the driveway and into the street. We took off for Mr. Winscott's house, torn between hoping Tallman was there and praying he wasn't. We saw him as soon as we biked into the cul-de-sac. He was still standing there after all, and this time he was outright frowning. He's mad, Rory said. He wants us to stay away. I don't get why he only comes out at night, Tyler said while he snapped a picture. Don't! I hissed. Stop taking pictures, you'll make him madder. Maybe he watches us in the daytime too. Rory shrugged. Maybe we can only see him at night because that's when the porch lights come on and shines right in the window. It was a chilling thought. We decided to test Rory's theory by the following Saturday, emboldened by the assumption that the tall man could only watch us but never come out. As soon as the sun came up that morning, we biked to Mr. Winscott's house. We had to get close almost all the way to the beginning of his driveway, but Tyler swore he saw a tall man still standing in the window. I made hand binoculars and squinted at the window for a few more minutes before Tyler suddenly said, "Let's go!" Hopped back on his bike and pedaled off. We caught up to him a few blocks later. What the hell was that? I said. Tallman was there, but he looked different this time. Like how? Rory asked. I don't know, he looked angry or just wrong somehow. Dang kids always coming around. It was days before we could convince Tyler to go back to the tall man's house. It's not even Mr. Winscott's house anymore, the tall man has taken over. And then he insisted on taking his teenage brother Matt with us. Oh no. Matt wasn't impressed with our stories at all. He didn't believe us, but he came anyway for Tyler's sake. As soon as we got close enough to see Tallman in the window above the door, Matt got off his bike. He stared and squinted, and stared some more. He got closer than we had ever dared to go at night. We followed nervously behind him. Matt walked up the driveway and then down the stone path to the front porch. We dared not to follow that far. Then Matt went up to the porch stairs, right up to the door. Holy fuck, he said, and then a few more four-letter words. And suddenly Matt was running down the front porch, down the path, down the driveway, and out onto the street. No, it is Matt. Driveway out on the street where we waited. What is it? Oh, excuse me. What is it? Tyler asked him. There is no tall man, he said, out of breath. Call the cops. Now. And he was right. It wasn't tall man after all. We stayed long enough to watch the police break down the door and cut the rotting corpse of Mr. Winscott from the ceiling where he had hung himself from the lamp fixture in his foyer. The body had decayed as if it were melting in the days we had watched it from the road. Mr. Winscott had written no note and made no goodbyes, leaving behind only the sad imprint of a divorced, middle-aged man suffering a sad, well-hidden depression. It was weeks before the town lost interest in the tragic suicide and months before kids stopped asking us to describe the body in all of its gory detail. Don't say rip poor soap. Eventually, even Tyler and Rory stopped talking about it. Everyone had moved on. Everyone except me. See, there was one detail that always bothered me. One thing I never told Rory or Tyler. It was about the first time I had seen Tall Man. The time I'd been alone. The thing was, I'd seen Mr. Winscott that night. He'd been sitting alone in his kitchen eating dinner. But I'd seen something else too. In the upstairs bedroom window, there had been an impossibly tall, impossibly pale man staring back at me. And he had been politely smiling. So, our protagonist saw the real tall man. And not just the body of poor Mr. Winscott. That's so sad. I guess the tall man took him to hanging men. No! That's so sad. So sad. Do we want one more? I could probably do one more. I said one more this one, but I could probably do one more. Infinite one more? No. Let's see. This one's 3 minutes long. Sheesh. That's so bad! Don't say yes. Oh my goodness. Okay, so we have If Glass Could Scream or What Lies Within the Hollow Tree. Because both of these seem cool. Ew. There's also the cat with human teeth. Ugh. Please don't. I hate the Minecraft sound effect for glass breaking. It's so bad. We have another contender, and it's the cat with human teeth. You want to do the cat? Oh my god, man. Okay. Alright. Okay. Everybody strap in. Oh god. Okay. Alright. There I was, scratching my 9th scratch-off ticket in a row at my local convenience store. My eyes widened with hope, but also sank in with the anticipation of disappointment. The other 8 representations of my gambling fuel rested in pieces inside the store's waste bin. Revealing each number using my lucky penny, I scratched away while simultaneously grinding my teeth. In a moment of displeasure, I tore the ticket to shreds and tossed it aside with the rest. It was another loser. At this point, I was about $50 deep, and I knew I had to shake my bad habit. However, betting my smidgen of wealth was an angel in comparison to the demons I'd annexed throughout my short life. I had just turned 18 a couple months prior, an achievement of sorts for a boy with such a shaky childhood. My parents didn't always gravitate to each other in the way that happy couples do, like flowers reaching for sunlight. No, their values were pitted against one another through verbal quarrels and even physical exchanges. With these background altercations, and the scent of booze that bled through their air and walls, getting sleep at night was like pulling teeth. Even days I was left home alone, I could swear on my life that I heard my mother and father screaming and yelling, as if they were still in the house. I had witnessed the walls shake, knocking down lamps and picture frames in chain reaction to the vibrations. On top of that, I recall seeing my dad pacing in the upstairs hallway countless times. Every time this happened, even with certainty that no one else was there, I'd search around the residence anyway, I never found a reason for the disruptions. Taking the home life a lot worse was my younger brother Gregory, as his young mind solely paired confusion as a counterpart to the madness. At the age of 9, my brother had picked up a handful of traits dispersed throughout the paper-thin walls. The anger, the sensitivity, even gradual changes in appetite all became a part of him as a being. Gregory! The anger, the sensitivity, even gradual changes in appetite all became a part of him as a being. Getting through school was tough enough for him, let alone the miracle that was me receiving my bright white my bright white graduation cap and gown earlier in the year. However, I've made a tremendous effort in aiding his educational progress despite resistance on various occasions. But enough about that. Back to my gambling woes. I cut myself off, hoping to replace my vice with a more pleasant distraction. One that would come in the form of gray fur and paws. My older sister Jennifer, who took my brother and I under her wing in recent years to help us resuscitate, adopted me a 3-year-old gray cat. This is compensation for leaving me during the bad times. I decided to head home and meet the little furball, whom I predetermined would be named Smokey. Opening the front door, that's so cute. Opening the front door, I was met with a brush of softness, both from a touch of fur upon my leg and within the audible meow that had dispensed from the adorable pet. The short-haired great cat had seemed to already have a comfortable sensibility to my presence. In return, I knelt down to pet him, but only to be welcomed by a strained screech. The high-pitched scream didn't come from my new purring family member, but from my sister. "Gregory!" she yelled out. "Get over here right now!" I made my way over to the hallway in which she voiced her concern, to see what was going on. With my dismay, black marker ink was plastered across the tan-hued wall. The ink was shaped into something that made my eyes widen in shock. I was petrified. Terrifying depictions of cats with their teeth ripped out, along with a young boy tearing his own teeth out, were drawn. My little brother had crawled out of his room on all fours with a wide grin on his face and smudges of black ink spread across the palms and the back of his hands. "Gregory, why did you do this? You made such a mess!" My sister Jennifer had yelled in exasperation. "Clean it up right now." My little brother just stared with that creepy little grin on his face. Not a single word spoken. All that was received was a lingering silence, up until the quietness was suddenly cut off by something frightening. An ear-splitting shriek emerged from my brother's mouth. Both my sister and I clamped our own ears tightly to protect our suffering eardrums from the noise. After a minute or two, silence returned, and little Gregory scurried back into his room, the door shutting and locking behind him. Jennifer and I, still horrified and shaken, ended up cleaning the walls ourselves. Okay, no. Any child of mine that draws kind of fucked up things on the wall and screeches at me, exorcism time. I'm not going to disown you, but you're going to the church. Later that night, I was woken up by the sound of a deep and slow scratching, like sharp claws were being embedded into wood. My first thought was that Smokey was trying to leave the room, but he remained curled up at the edge of my bed. As I rose up from the slumber and began to step towards my door, the scratching increased in both speed and volume, the noise only ceasing when I turned the knob and opened the door. I crept my way down the stairs as cautiously and quietly as possible, as to not alert my sleeping siblings. However, my tactic was deemed a waste, with the clamor of what sounded like pots and pans being tossed around in the kitchen. Stepping into the vicinity of the noise, I came across the culprit. It was my cat Smokey, perched up on the kitchen counter, knocking down the pans that hung from the backsplash behind the stove. My brain was boggled by the fact that Smokey managed to sneak past me unnoticed, especially with me walking incognito. Looking down, a canvas of red caught my eye. Streaks and drips of what appeared to be blood trailed across the hardwood floor, leading to marks dug into the wall. I assumed that that was the source of the scratching sounds, that Smokey was blood-free, and the engravings were far too large for a small cat to make. Besides, he was in my bed when the commotion began. I couldn't make heads or tails of it, but I was too tired to investigate. Hoping it was just a chimney-lurking raccoon, I cleaned up the mess and headed back to bed. Excuse me? Excuse me, sir? You were not gonna go investigate the obvious blood? Okay, alright, okay. Looking down, The next morning was an aroma-filled paradise. I could almost taste the greasy maple bacon as the scent gathered in the air. The poached eggs and golden brown wheat toast danced around my imagination before I rushed down to the dining room. My sister was already at the bottom of the stairs, about to call my name, as I interrupted her with a close collision. I hopped into a vacant seat and dived right into the gloriously prepared plate of food. Glancing over at Gregory, I acknowledged him with, "Good morning. Get a good night's rest?" However, I was met with complete silence and a defiant grin once again. I expected another outcry, but instead my eyes made contact with Gregory's hands. His fingertips showed signs of stress, but the severity of it was beyond the likeness of fingernail biting. His nails were receded down to the flesh, and the skin freshly broken with signs of blood loss. My brother began to open his mouth and motioned with a foreshadowing of vomit, and then let out a mass of black liquid and gunk. The regurgitation left me disgusted and frankly quite baffled. I immediately turned to my sister to see if she witnessed what unfolded, but it was already too late. My brother vanished from the dining room table, along with the obscure grime that spewed past the crevice in which his lips were shaped. Almost instantly after the disappearance, I woke up. "He's trying to feed you like a mother," but absolutely not. Almost instantly after the disappearance, I woke up. The events that appeared so real were conceived as a nightmare. That familiar smell of breakfast again lingered around the house. I figured these scents had just temporarily carried over from the bad dream. Upon strolling on down to the kitchen, my theory was proven right. My sister had already left her work, and it seemed the kitchen remained untouched. Except for one part. A subtle, pulsating breath greeted my ears. Oh no. The wetness of a single drop of saliva was felt along the peak of my shoulder. Maybe it wasn't the greatest idea to look up at this point in time, but my curiosity collided with my impulsive reflexes. I swear my eyes almost shriveled out of their sockets because when I stared, I was looking at something that made me question my sanity. My little brother Gregory was up above me, defying gravity, his hands flat against the ceiling, as if it was the floor. He was foaming at the mouth, bug-eyed, and his face pale and gray, but with a reddish tint. I remained frozen in place from fright when Gregory leapt down from his perch. He immediately dashed upstairs on all fours, quicker than I could ever run. After this, a resounding animal-like whine, the kind you'd expect to hear when a cat's tail is accidentally stepped on, roared throughout the home. "Smokey!" I yelled out as I ran up to my room. What happened from there disturbed me, to say the least. Tears hit my cheeks. My face expressed disgust in both movement and color. I was upset in more ways than I knew a person could feel. The combined emotions of terror, revulsion, wretchedness, and perplexity. No! Shut up! And perplexity overcame me in this very moment. My cat Smokey rested with his teeth torn out, but surprisingly still conscious. I watched as my brother, with radiating yellow eyes, rip out his own teeth as well. Oddly enough, quick and easy like tearing off a bandage. Gregory then placed his own teeth into Smokey's mouth and did the same to himself with the cat's fangs. Ugh. Ugh. The scene before me was remarkable, but in the worst sense. A young male, about 4.5 feet tall, with a mouth resembling a feline's, a once cute-looking feline, altered into a humanoid appearance via its jawline. My brother picked up Smokey's new form into his arms, walked away, and vanished right through the wall, neither of them to be seen again. Many of us are raised up in a not so perfect home life, but how people handle this is varied. One might grow up scratching lottery tickets while another scratches up the walls of the home they live in. A more vulnerable host attracts negative energy at higher rates, qualifying for a manifestation of their own demons. In this case, my brother was a target. Also, fair warning for you, his body is still out there somewhere, possessed by something sinister, along with Smokey, the cat with human teeth. Ew! 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 That's so gross! That's so gross! Oh my goodness. That's so gross. Oh. Oh. Why did you send me those on Discord? I hate it! Oh, I hate it. So bad. Oh my goodness. I didn't even change the... Oh, that was so gross. I think I'm done. I'm done for today. That was so bad. Okay. Oh. That sounds awful. That sounds terrible. But I think I'm done for today. I think I read more than I thought it was. And my throat is kind of trashed a little bit. So that's it for today. I hope today was okay. It was a little rushed. It was a little scuffed. Oh, well, thank you. I'm glad you think that. Hopefully this week's is much better. I'm gonna try not to wait till the last minute to get things done. That was on me. That was my fault. I thought I had more time than I did, and then I didn't have enough time, and then it was a mess. But I think it went all without a hitch. I will definitely do a lot more voice training. Because I don't think I can do, if my voice is gonna be this bad after reading a couple stories, I don't think it's gonna last. But thank you guys for watching. Let me see who we can raid. Who's up? Clover, Iris, so Casual streaming. We can go raid Bunny. Or we can go raid Cowrie. Both are playing Overwatch. Bunny's raided me a lot. I owe him a raid. Bunny. Oop. Raid. Bunny. Forgot his whole name is Vivo. Vivo. Okay. Alrighty. Bye guys. Bye. Bye.